Please take action. In desperation, I called out, but my husband and mother-in-law turned a blind eye. I stood there covered in blood, and they didn't even bother to look at me. It looked like they were more concerned about whether the floor was unclean and about the dangerous dog that had bitten me. I had no choice but to call for an ambulance on my own, and I was transported away by myself. During the ambulance trip to the hospital, I could not stop crying. Eventually, my spouse gave me a call. In a panic, he was shouting, "Hey, turn the ambulance around. Brenda Andrews is my name, and I am 37 years old. A friend took me to a mixer, a social event for civil servants, 5 years ago. Brenda, you're coming, right?" she demanded. My husband Scott, who is 5 years younger than me, and I met there. My mother teaches physical education, and my dad instructs judo. My 2 older brothers, who are all black belts in judo, came from a household that was quite athletic. It turned me into a little tomboy. Conversely, Scott was an entirely different person. His shirt buttons didn't match when we first met, and he stammered when making the toast. Though he didn't seem to be a nasty person, he was a decent guy who just didn't seem to be able to get things quite right. This kind side of Scott appealed to me and made me feel compassionate. I actually suggested that we start dating after we went on a few dates. Scott had a knack for reducing my innately irritable mood. Before I knew it, I had come to believe that I should stay with him forever. I proposed to him on our first anniversary together. I proposed marriage, saying that I would take care of you for the rest of your life. "That's supposed to be my line, Brenda," he said, tears welling up in his eyes. "I'm grateful for everything you've done. Let's keep looking out for one another." That's how we made the decision to tie the knot. Scott was really anxious around my 2 brothers and my severe father when he first met my folks. "You know there's no need to be scared," my mother attempted to reassure him. However, Scott loudly answered, "Yes." The whole family laughed when he broke into a cracking voice. "Even though he was severe," my father commented, "I can tell he put a lot of thought into the gifts he brought, but he seems a bit unsure of himself. I'm glad he loves Brenda so much because it's obvious." It was time to meet Scott's family after getting to know my own. He informed me that 3 years prior, his father had died of cancer. Scott was their 6th child after 6 years of trying due to his parents' struggles with infertility. I wasn't the anxious sort normally, but on that particular day, I was particularly nervous about seeing his mother. I was so worried about what would happen if she didn't like me. What if I welcome her incorrectly? What happens if our age gap bothers her? At that moment, Scott, who isn't the most comforting person, said, "Don't worry. My mom is really kind. Talking to her will come naturally to you. She is well known in the community for her constant smiles." It helped me a little to hear this. "And there's no way anyone could dislike you, Brenda," he continued. His remarks cheered me up. We rang the doorbell as soon as we got to his family's house. I made an introduction. "Brenda, nice to meet you." "Oh, you must be Brenda. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today," his mother remarked with a warm grin. "Come on in. There's no need to be so formal." She looked elegant and kind, and she was wearing a beautiful dress. When the topic of the age gap came up, she responded, "Age doesn't matter at all," which alarmed me. That someone like you will become Scott's wife makes me very happy. My worries all vanished. She was excited by everything I stated and showed no concern at all about my age difference. I had a blast. We got to talking about a dog my mother-in-law used to own. "Isn't that adorable?" she said, pointing to a picture. This dog belonged to me in elementary school. The dog was quite intelligent and amiable, but as it grew older, it went away. My spouse then said, "Mom, Brenda doesn't really like dogs." "Brenda, you don't like dogs?" she asked, appearing astonished. I said, "Yeah, in actuality. Despite my slight tomboyish tendencies, I'm terrified of dogs. When I went to collect the ball from my brother when I was playing in the park as a child, a frightened stray dog bit my arm. My bleeding was severe, requiring 5 sutures. I've been terrified of dogs ever then, and it was a horrible event." In reply, Shirley said, "Oh my, that was unknown to me. I apologize profusely for bringing up dogs when you're terrified of them." Quickly, I replied, No, I apologize if I alarmed you. The poodle in the photo was quite adorable." "Thank you," Shirley answered with a smile. "Your mother is such a wonderful person, so beautiful and kind," I told Scott on the drive home. With a smile, he answered, "I know, right? My mother has a kind disposition and is constantly grinning." I concurred, stating, "She's a beautiful mother." We talked eagerly about his mother all the time. Then suddenly, my husband became serious. "Actually, there's something I want to talk to you about," he said. "You know how we visited my family home today?" "Yes, it was such a big house. I was really surprised," I replied. "Exactly," he continued. "When my dad was still alive, he designed it with my mom in mind, making sure everything was convenient for her. The house even has 4 children's rooms in case they had more kids, but since I'm an only child, they were never used. Now my mom is living there alone, and she finds it too big and lonely. So I was thinking, what if we live with her?" I was shocked by his unexpected idea. My eyes widened in surprise. It's true the house was really big, and my mother-in-law kept it spotless. Living in such a house would be amazing, but we're newlyweds, and it feels a bit too soon for that. After thinking for a moment, I said, "Your mother is a wonderful person, and the house is so beautiful, but it feels like too much for me. We just got married, right? I'd like to enjoy our newlywed life, just the 2 of us, for a little while longer." "I see. You're right. I understand," he said. "I'll let my mom know." "Yes, I'm sorry. Please explain it to her gently." I felt a bit guilty toward Shirley, but I knew it was important to share my true feelings instead of just going along with everything. I was relieved that my husband seemed to understand and agree with me. Then our married life together began. Scott was still a bit clumsy, but he actively helped with house chores, and we were enjoying a happy and smooth life. However, recently, something has been bothering me a little. "Oh, hello, Mom." "Ah, got it. I'm coming over now," Scott said on the phone. "Your mom again?" I asked. "Yeah, the living room light bulb burned out. I'll go over and replace it." And off he went to his mom's house. Lately, it's been like this all the time. Mom bought a new computer, but she's having trouble setting it up. So I'm heading over to help. Or Mom bought too many groceries at the supermarket, so she asked me to come pick her up. I'm going to help her out. Whether it was weekdays or weekends, the phone would ring, and Scott would head back to his mom's house more and more often. I started feeling a little upset, thinking that he could at least spend the weekends at home with me. But at the same time, I reminded myself that Scott is just a kind and thoughtful person who cares a lot about his mother. A month had passed since we got married, and just like when we were dating, we hadn't had any major arguments, and things were going smoothly. Today was Shirley's birthday. My husband and I had picked out a present and a cake for her, and we went to his parents' house. As soon as we walked in, a scary dog suddenly jumped out. "What?" I said, my eyes widening in surprise. There hadn't been a dog when we came for the wedding visit. Since I'm afraid of dogs, I quickly hid behind my husband. Shirley came out of the living room and said, "Oh, welcome." "Mom, where did this scary dog come from?" Scott asked. "Well, I was feeling lonely living by myself, so I got a dog recently. Isn't it cute?" she said, smiling. The dog was small, a Welsh corgi. "I see," I replied, still startled by the dog's sudden appearance. I forced a smile, even though I was scared. Without noticing my discomfort, Shirley brought the dog closer to me and said, "Come on, Brenda. Why don't you hold it?" I took a step back and said, I mentioned this when we came for the wedding visit, but I was bitten by a dog when I was younger, and I've been afraid of dogs ever since." I politely declined to hold the dog. "Oh, did you say that?" "I didn't know," she said, pretending not to remember. "But it's so cute. What a strange person you are." I noticed a slight smirk on her face, and for the first time, I wondered if Shirley was being sarcastic. After that day, whenever Scott said, "Mom wants to see you," or "Let's go visit my mom," I started declining. I still couldn't forget the smirk she gave me when she saw I was uncomfortable around the dog. A month later, after finishing work and coming home, I found my mother-in-law in the house. "What? Why are you here?" I asked, surprised. "Oh, welcome home," she greeted me cheerfully, as if everything was normal. She was in the kitchen, had opened the fridge, and was cooking. "Why did you come over so suddenly?" I asked. "My dear, Scott said he wanted to eat my homemade stew, so I just had to come," she said, looking very happy as she hummed to herself. "Oh, I see." I tried to smile, but I felt tense, especially since her dog was in the living room. To make things worse, she had fed the dog, and it was looking clean on my favorite antique plate. I had bought that plate at a flea market in Canada, and now the dog was looking at it. Who could possibly be okay with this? I went to my room to put away my bags and coat. I told myself not to get upset since Shirley had come all this way. I took a deep breath to calm down and went back to the living room. To my horror, the dog had made a mess on the brand new carpet. The stain was bright yellow. "Oh no, the dog messed up the carpet," I shouted in a panic, but Shirley didn't seem to care. "Oh dear, it made a mess right there, huh?" she said casually, not even bothering to scold the dog or clean it up. Knowing the stain would get worse if I didn't take care of it, I ended up cleaning it myself. I was usually calm, but this really frustrated me. Just then, I heard the door open and my husband came home. The dog, hearing him, started barking loudly. Woof! Woof! It barked until he came into the living room, and even the sound of the barking scared me. Once the dog saw it was my husband, it stopped, and I felt a bit of relief. The three of us sat down to eat the stew Shirley had made. Neither my husband nor Shirley bothered to put the dog in its cage, so it wandered around our feet, hoping for food. I felt tense and started trembling. Shirley noticed and said, "You really don't like dogs, do you, Brenda? You look so scared." "I brought the dog today to help you get over your fear." Bringing the dog here without asking, using my favorite plate, letting it mess up the carpet, and having it bark at me. How is any of this supposed to help me get over my fear? If anything, it made me hate dogs even more. In my mind, I was screaming, "If you really want to help, just put the dog in a cage or keep it away from me. But my husband didn't notice my discomfort at all. Mom is so kind. She's really trying to help you, Brenda, he said. I couldn't believe it. How was this kind? She was pretending to care while actually making things worse for me. Then, to make things worse, my husband started to lecture me. Brenda, this isn't okay. What? I'm the one at fault? I asked, shocked. Mom has done all this for you, and yet you keep avoiding the dog. You won't even visit my parents' house because of the dog. You're not trying hard enough, Brenda, my husband said. Since his mother was there, he started criticizing me more harshly than usual. I had no choice but to say, I'm sorry, and apologize in front of my mother-in-law. I bit my lip, trying to hold back my frustration. After that, Shirley began coming to our house often, always bringing her dog. Each time, the dog would run around the house making a mess. But Shirley never seemed to care or discipline the dog. These visits were stressing me out more and more. One day, I had enough. I gathered my courage and said, Please, I've told you many times that I'm afraid of dogs. Can you stop bringing the dog here? Shirley's face changed, and she suddenly looked angry. I've been wondering, she snapped. Are you using your fear of dogs as an excuse to avoid me? Brenda, that's terrible. I was shocked and had no idea what she meant. But what surprised me even more was that my husband agreed with her. Brenda, that's too much. My mom has been thinking of you, and you've been avoiding her. That's really rude. Apologize to her, Scott. Shirley, you both know I'm afraid of dogs, right? But you keep bringing the dog, and every time it makes a mess, I'm the one who has to clean it up. This is too much, I said, frustrated. Shirley frowned and said, At least let me enjoy my time with the dog. You're too old to have kids anyway, so what's the harm? I was stunned. Is that what you really think? I asked. Isn't it true you're already 37, and it's getting harder to have a baby at your age? But my son is only 32. He has his whole future ahead of him. Now he's stuck with an older, arrogant wife, she muttered. This was the same woman who once told me age didn't matter. Hearing her true feelings shocked me. I couldn't bear to have her around any longer. So I said, Please don't come here again. My eyes filled with tears. And maybe because of that, Shirley got even more upset. How dare you? You really are an arrogant wife, she shouted before storming out with her dog. From that day on, I started feeling more and more resentment toward both my husband and Shirley. Ever since my husband defended her and blamed me, things between us had been tense, and we barely spoke to each other anymore. 2 weekends later, my husband came to me with a serious look on his face. Brenda, I'm sorry, he began. I was wrong to. I should have thought more about your feelings, Scott said. I felt relieved, thinking he finally understood how I felt. But then he added, Let's go apologize to Mom now. What? Why should we do that? Was I wrong that day? I asked, confused. It's not about being right or wrong. Don't make Mom angry. Just apologize, please, he said. In the end, my husband didn't understand anything. He didn't care about my feelings at all. He took me to his parents' house against my will. When we got there, Shirley was waiting for me, hands on her hips. Shirley, I'm sorry about the other day, I said as my husband had told me to, just to calm her down. But then she said, I'll forgive you if you hold the dog. That was it. I realized I couldn't reason with her. I had apologized even though I wasn't wrong, and I had tried to meet her halfway many times. And this was her response. As I've said before, I can't do that, I replied firmly, keeping my cool. Shirley got angry and forcefully pushed the dog toward me. Ah! I cried out and instinctively pushed the dog away. But my scream startled the dog, and it bit my hand. It hurt so much, and my hand was quickly covered in blood. Please do something, I begged my husband and Shirley, but Shirley just said, well, anyone would be scared by such a loud noise. Poor thing, focusing only on the dog. To my shock, my husband was more concerned about whether the floor was dirty. Neither of them cared about me, and I felt disgusted. Meanwhile, my hand kept bleeding, and I had to shoo the dog away myself. I decided to call an ambulance. When the ambulance arrived, Shirley scoffed, "Oh, come on, you're being so dramatic over a dog bite," looking at me with a mocking expression. My husband, even as the ambulance showed up, didn't change. He was still checking the floor. Ignoring both of them, I got into the ambulance, pressing my bleeding hand. I was filled with anger, pain, and sadness. I couldn't stop crying as I sat alone in the ambulance. For some reason, my husband called me while I was being taken to the hospital. I thought maybe he was finally worried about me, so I answered the phone. But instead, he said, "Mom got bitten by the dog. You're still nearby, right? Tell the driver to come back to our house." Hearing those words, I felt my feelings for my husband start to disappear. I didn't care anymore what happened to him or his mother. Let them deal with it on their own. I quietly hung up the phone. When I got to the hospital and the doctor checked my wound, he said it was deeper than expected and I would need to stay in the hospital. Since I wasn't ready for this, I called my parents and asked them to bring some things for me. After a while, my parents arrived. "Brenda, are you okay?" they asked, their faces full of worry as they looked at me lying in bed. "I'm sorry for making you worry. It still hurts a little, but I'm okay for now," I replied. "I see. When we heard you were taken to the hospital, we were really worried. What happened?" they asked. I told them everything about how my mother-in-law and husband had acted. My mom hugged me and said, "You did well." I had been feeling so alone, but just being able to talk to them made me feel better. However, my dad was furious after hearing the story. "I will never forgive them," he said angrily. He looked like he was about to explode with rage. The next day, my husband called. Scott was also furious. "What the hell is going on? The police just showed up at our house, and now my mom is being questioned." "I don't know. Maybe the hospital reported it. They asked me how I got hurt, so I told them it was your mom's dog that bit me." "What? What if my mom gets arrested? This is your fault for being careless in the first place." "Yeah, I figured you'd blame me," I said, "but I don't care anymore. Actually, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. Let's get a divorce." "What? We've only been married for 4 months. Getting divorced so soon? Everyone at work and our family will laugh at us. It's embarrassing." "I'm not divorcing you," he said angrily, and hung up the phone. 2 weeks later, I was discharged from the hospital. My parents came to pick me up, and I decided to go back to their house with them. After that, I talked to a lawyer about the divorce and asking for alimony from my husband, since there was no way to reason with him. Even though my husband kept calling me, I ignored all his calls. Eventually, after missing another call, I got a text message from him saying, "I'm at the cafe near your parents' house. You better come." If he really wanted to talk, he could have come to the house, but he didn't. It was clear he didn't want to face my parents. With no other choice, I went to the cafe. The first thing my husband said was, "I'm not getting a divorce. I don't care what you want. I am getting a divorce. There's no way I want to stay with you or your mother after everything that's happened," I replied. "Don't disparage my mother. You are to blame for this." He went on to lecture me. "You avoided my mom because you said you were afraid of dogs, and the dog bit you because you screamed." At that moment, my dad and his 2 brothers showed up at the diner. My father had called my brothers to come along after I told him about my husband's message before we left. With 3 bulky judo practitioners encircling him, Scott's voice faltered as he uttered, "Oh, father-in-law, brothers-in-law." He cowered in a way that was almost comical. My dad interrupted, saying, "How dare you harm my daughter? Our sister desires a separation. Are you planning to present it to her?" They all fixed fierce looks on him. Scott stammered in fear and said, Yes." It took a lot of prodding from my father and brothers for him to finally consent to the divorce and pay alimony. "Sign these," I said, passing him the divorce documents I had already prepared. "We are divorcing each other." My spouse reluctantly signed the documents, and I departed from the cafe. I was able to divorce my spouse and get alimony from him with the help of my father and brothers. In addition to obtaining alimony from my ex-mother-in-law, my attorney also sought payment from her for my injuries. I then learned that the police had questioned my ex-mother-in-law regarding the dog bite. She had to give up the dog after receiving a severe warning. It seems that she lavished so much attention on the dog that it began to believe it was more powerful than people. It bit her also after it bit me, and that's how she fractured her wrist. Now that her wrist movement is restricted, she lives an uncomfortable life. My ex-husband and his mother returned to live with their parents. She would ask Scott, "Can you help with the laundry?" because she was unable to use her wrist correctly. "Could you prepare food for me?" However, Scott was unable to accomplish much on his own because he had never cleaned a house before. My ex-husband blamed her, stating, "It's your fault this happened in the first place," which led to their frequent arguments. They started having frequent arguments. Meanwhile, stories about his mistreatment of me led to his divorce. According to his family and co-workers, his pride took a hit, and it was for the best. While I was in the hospital, I was the one who began those rumors. I told his co-worker the story, and I had his contact information. I told this co-worker on purpose since I knew they loved to gossip. It operated flawlessly. My co-worker disseminated information about my ex-husband's actions, branding him as a mama's boy, abusive, and divorced. In all honesty, he deserved it because it made him an easy target at work. I have a great life now that my brothers and parents have supported me. How is this story to you?